the process of being a med student or being a resident. It'd be great to get into more like educational, informational stuff. Something that I would really, really like to do is just maybe even more mental health content, not just like skin.
Yeah, look, all of my friends going crazy. I gotta brag on myself.
Artlist.io.
I can phase me. I'm too dope like I'm back in the 80s. Okay, call me and I'm gon' slide. Pull up with me for a hell of a ride. You need a couple wins, they ain't doing it right. Hit up my line, we gon' turn up the night. I got a lot of wins on my dinner.
Okay. Today on the Healthy Indian Podcast, we have Dr. Deven Patel. Thank you for joining. A psychiatry resident by day, mental health advocate by night, lifelong fitness devotee all the time. When it comes to, just health, fitness, he's a human behavior expert. He's also a psychiatry resident, as I said earlier. Deven bridges the gap between the science of the mind, the practice of the physical health, helping people understand the true wellness at the intersection of psychology and movement. He's really close with his dad. They have a great relationship, but when it comes to Instagram Reels on social media, as someone who's navigated the rigor of medical training and still carves out time to coach others towards peak performance, he's uniquely qualified to teach us how to train both brain, body for resilient and sustainable health. So thanks, Deven, for coming on, bro. Appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So a little bit about you. How did you get into, you're a really unique case when it comes to psychiatry, being a doctor, mental health, and, Instagram and social media. How did you get into how did you find your niche, right? Because, there's a lot to unpack here. How did you kind of get to psychiatry? Let's start there, and then we can go into the social media world.
Definitely. I grew up around friends who were going through their own respective mental health journeys, especially like in the time during and after college. And, just being around that and seeing, family, friends deal with their own respective mental health journeys, it really opened my eyes to what it can be like and what that process involves. And that kind of started my passion for mental health. I think when you're struggling with something that a lot of people may have not experienced, or that also is kind of an invisible illness that you can't physically see it can be difficult. In that perspective of trying to understand someone's viewpoint or what they're feeling like from the outside is something I've always been drawn to, mostly because my initial passion was for film. So for like movies, and I really like movies. I like the way that films in America could change American perspectives on things. Like during the AIDS epidemic in like the late 80s, early 90s, Hollywood made a lot of good movies that really changed Americans' perceptions of the disease, of the LGBTQ community, of all of that. And so that was really impactful to see growing up. I didn't grow up during that time, but just like, as I studied film when I was like in high school. And then, so that was the initial passion, was storytelling, filmmaking. And then around that time, I also became passionate about mental health, because mental health was like everyone's personal storytelling. And just wanting to understand like what shapes someone and what brings them to the point they're at now, right? Whenever you meet someone, they've been through so much already. They've had their respective traumas, their respective, respective happy moments, all of those things. Excuse me, sorry. And
No.
right. And then it's a little congested. And then, so that was kind of the overall thing. And then, so around the same time, I was making short films. I was doing all of that after college. I also started med school. So I was kind of balancing, filmmaking, storytelling, and medicine. And then, around that time during med school, I ran out of time for like making short films. So I started doing content creation. And so I was making videos online. I was a med student. And then, it worked out pretty well. And so I continued making videos. People seemed to enjoy them. I initially started making comedy stuff, like comedy skits. And then eventually, as I got deeper into medicine, as my passion for mental health and mental illness and all of that grew more, I started making more wellness content, more like mental well-being content, and that sort of thing. And then, still doing that today. And kind of the big goal now that I feel pretty comfortable in my psychiatry residency, I'm a second year now, and I feel pretty comfortable where all the content creation's at. Like I've finally got it all organized and scheduled and whatnot on the various platforms. Now I'm putting my attention back to like filmmaking, back to like longer form writing. And I'd love to make a film about mental illness and kind of hopefully change the perspective around it. And I think a lot of the things that I see in my own work that I do is in psychiatry. I think a lot of that isn't super well reflected in media or in storytelling or filmmaking yet, but I'm hoping to change that and tell a story about that. And that's kind of
So,
my whole life in a couple
dude,
minutes.
and that's amazing. And also off camera too, you're like one of the nicest people I ever met when it comes to interacting with creators. So I'm
Well,
so
I
grateful
appreciate
for
it.
our off the camera as well.
Me as well. Me as well.
Yeah, yeah. Because, I also feel like a lot of us are also people at the end of the day. So if you treat
Definitely.
people the way they want to be treated, I think it's important to know that we have a human element to all this too. Right. And I'm sure for you, it was such a long journey because you've also experienced also like, getting used to this filmmaking, this social media career on the side while also training to be a full-time psychiatry doctor. Right. Tell us
Yeah.
a little bit about that transition that you kind of went through as you kind of went through training. Did you learn things along the way through social media and like some of the comments you would receive as far as mental health or just people opening up to you about their life? Right, I know you do it for humor and reels and stuff, but you
Yeah.
never know what's out there, right? So I just wanted to know a little bit about your interaction with people, right? Because you would heavily interact with the brown community, and not only that community, you interact with a lot of people with your fan base and stuff too. So I'd just love to unpack a little, right?
Definitely, definitely. Great question. And yeah, that's true. When you're doing like social media, when you're running a podcast, when you're doing any of these things, you'll naturally have more people reaching out and having questions and wanting to explore different things. And I wasn't a very social person for the first 25 years of my life or so, I'd probably say. As I got on to content creation, then like recently, then that's when I became a more social person, started talking to more people, started being more comfortable speaking in front of a crowd, those sorts of things. And it's when you start making videos, I think people will sometimes feel like you are more of an expert in whatever it is you're talking about, or if they see that you have any sort of like audience or success online, they will naturally make sense to kind of assume that you have maybe a bigger perspective on something or things like that. And you're right, people will reach out and ask questions and those sorts of things, and I just try to do my best to direct them towards whatever resource I think would best suit them. We're all lifelong learners, so that's kind of been part of that process. But especially as you were mentioning in the communities, right, in the brown community, in the mental health community, in the comedic community, and all these different communities, if you make videos to cater towards them, then they will have more to say to you or more to reach out to you about. Learning how to I guess navigate those sorts of conversations and those sorts of interactions, something I'm still learning to do. And yeah, and does that kind of answer that question, or would there be a more pointed
Yeah.
perspective you'd like on that?
No, no, no. It definitely does answer it. I just wanted to understand like how you put yourself out there at this level because when you're starting out, putting yourself out there is terrifying. It's mortifying,
Right. Yes,
right?
I can speak. Yeah.
A lot of people don't understand like what kind of anxiety that comes with it, what you're posting. You're kind of in the ethos, even though you're doing great numbers, let's just say like 1 million to like even 40,000, both numbers still have extreme inducing anxiety to it. And I feel
Definitely.
like a lot of people have their perspective on things, and now with social media and especially also even with different communities out there, everyone is a little hypersensitive to things people say or to even things people don't say. And even the other day, like I just saw like the CEO, the astronomer CEO,
Yeah.
Andy Bryant, and that lady, and they were just on camera, and one side is like, okay, like they were doing their thing, but then another side is like, damn, that's terrifying, right? Like everyone knows your business. And I think, of course, social media is a powerful thing to it, but I also think like, putting yourself out there, putting just like your perspective on things is mortifying. And then now you're at that level where, you have so much engagement, so much activity. And now you have to like, make sure that, you're still delivering, but you're also able to give your audience what they want. But it's always like, just the next level higher, right? You're just pushing the bar constantly. So I kind of wanted to just know like more about that as well. But it's great what you're doing, man. I mean, it's amazing, like what, like how you've improved over time. And I saw like the reels, like, like you had it with a couple of creators and now you're adding your dad into it. So just adding that family element to it, I think it's amazing because I relate to your dad because it's like any brown dad out there. So, it's great. I guess like in moments of burnout, like, with social media, do you go through burnout and stuff? And especially with, another job on the side?
Definitely. No, that's a great question. And yeah, so with burnout, in terms of content creation, that's kind of like a daily job, right? Like let's say you put out like a couple like really good videos and you get some millions of views and that sort of thing. Those videos will like kind of carry you or your account for like a couple days, and then they're like almost just forgotten about, right? That's the nature of content. People are always creating. So your stuff can be forgotten about very easily. You can kind of fall off very easily. Like that's such a common thing. Learning how to like be regular with it is definitely a challenge. When it comes to burnout, you absolutely can get burned out, like for multiple reasons. Like let's say you made a lot of content and you're posting every day, but it's not translating the way you wanted. You know, you're not getting let's say if you're chasing a result and you're not getting that result, you can easily get burned out. If you're attached just to the process of creating, that's a little bit better. But of course, you know, if you're having to do something like kind of almost every day or several times a week or every other day, then it is easy to get burned out. Over the last I really started getting more serious about content creation like 2022, so like a couple of years ago, like several years ago. And so since then there's been periods where I was very regular, posting like almost every day, and there's been periods where I've gone like months and not really posted. And during those periods where I went months, it wasn't so much just burned out about content. It was usually like, you know, med school was really ramping up, or it was first year of residency and I just didn't really have that much time to post. But when it comes to the creation, I've always been okay about that, because whenever I do a free time, I would like bulk make stuff or like meet up with collaborators and make a bunch of stuff. And then I would just have like a backlog on my phone. But sometimes I would get kind of burned out to the process of posting. So I'd have a bunch of videos, but I'd kind of just stop posting for whatever reason, maybe laziness. And yeah, the way to kind of tackle that, I think, is to get more attached to the process of just creating and releasing, and not so much of like, you know, I need to get this much followers, I need to get this many views or whatever, because like those metrics will like come and go. Yeah. And with having, I think there's a lot of people making content nowadays who have like another job or two jobs or whatever outside of that. And it can be a lot to balance, because, right, you go do you clock in, you do your job, and then you come home and you figure out your content stuff and your posting strategy and all that. And it's a lot. But I think nowadays in modern times, people are doing more things. I think that's kind of like the trend. Everyone's got multiple passions, everyone's got like a side hustle and all that stuff. So,
Real estate, you know.
What's that?
I was like, people also have some real estate on the side from COVID 2020.
Right.
And now
Of
our
course.
generation's trying to find real estate.
Right. Like both me and you can, you know, speak to it. Like we both are pursuing multiple things, multiple passions, and it can be very rewarding, but it can also be, I'm sure we can both say, there's definitely tough times and times where you just kind of need to take a break. And sometimes it's healthy to do that. We shouldn't always just push ourselves through everything. Yeah. With content creation presents the unique struggle of just, you know, it's something that people want a daily product of. So how do you produce that and provide that without, you know, completely losing yourself? And I think it is important to take breaks.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like I so resonate with you there, because I did have a couple podcasts that I have not even posted, and it's literally sheer, not laziness, but the ability to post, because I also don't know how people keep posting, and it's the action of posting. It's not the content. It's not my podcast. I love my guests. I love like what I do, but it's just like finding the time balance with two jobs, and then also, you know, pursuing a life that, you know, dating somebody, just getting used to attending events, even events, right? Like you also don't want to say no to friends, family. You don't want to miss out. So it's
Absolutely.
a lot of moving parts, and it sucks sometimes, because I definitely want to post more, but I also think I also want to like be selfish with my time and also take time to post, right? I think quality, not quantity. So I think, and I've learned it from my inner friend circle as well, is like to really take time and, you know, just take time to learn and just appreciate people that come into your life, like yourself, and, you know, ask them questions like, hey, Deven, like what's going on here? What am I doing right here? You know, so I think that is really, really important. And I think when it comes to social media, I think I still struggle with just perception in general, because I feel like, you know, just our community or just people in general can say hurtful things, and they don't say it to me, but I see it happen to other people. And that's like my what if, like, what if
That's
I get
scary,
that moment?
yeah.
So,
Well,
you know, and like,
I can jump in and mention that with other people's comments, that is a big thing. And I think you touched on that in a really good way. You know, when you first start making like videos and stuff online, it's what you mentioned, your community, like your people, your friends, your family, those are the ones who are going to see it first, because like, you know, when you first start, you've not built like an audience of, you know, people that like your stuff yet. So it is your friends, your family who will see it, who may judge you, who may think it's weird, who may, you know, self-expression at first always feels a little strange, right? Especially if the idea your friends, family, the people who know you have in their mind doesn't match like who you see yourself as and who you're going to express yourself as. And that can be very difficult when you first start off. But I think the process of, if you stay consistent with it and you keep releasing stuff, the people that know you, that might already be following you just because they know you, may stop watching your stuff, because even if they like to make fun of you, they'll get tired of it eventually and they'll stop looking at it even. And then eventually internet strangers essentially will slowly build your community, right? People that just like your stuff, not that like your stuff because they know you, because they don't know you, right? They like the thing you're producing. And then eventually your community will get replaced, so to speak, with those folks who are like fans of the work, not just people that know you personally, and feel expected to support because of that. And then as you grow that, then I think the voices of people that know you, if they are making fun of you, get drowned out a little bit by like the community that you created that does dig your stuff, that does like your stuff. But I think the initial process of expressing yourself in any way naturally lends itself to people making comments, making fun of you, to you, or behind your back or whatever. And that's just human nature to say those things. I think learning to just stick to the process of creation, stick to the process of self-expression, regardless of whether people praise it or insult you for it, is like the key. And that's like a lifelong battle, but learning to get into that mindset helps you to be more well adjusted, and then life doesn't like hurt as bad when people say negative things or do negative things to you, but yeah, that's kind of my take on the.
And I appreciate it because like now, like, like again, like you said, my friends and family too, right? And initially, I have a pretty big, following in like my little Indian community because I do, obviously I have in a sales role as well, but
Right.
They went from before, being like, oh, what is he doing, to now like at weddings and being like, yo, how's podcasting going? How's full time going? But definitely I hear the good things. It's just, I don't know what I don't know. So it's just like that unknown. But I think, like you said, like if they are talking stuff about you and if it does come up, just kind of be ready for it and flush it out and then have internet strangers actually be like your fans. Right. And I think having fans that consistently post on your stuff, like, frequently is like a good thing because like now they're engaging your content. They follow you religiously. They also probably are just relate to you in certain ways because they just feel more connected to you. And, you're doing somebody a justice by doing that because I think you're kind of touching someone out there that really appreciates what you are as a human. And I think like they're just like more involved in your life, right? Like I always remember there's couples, those a couple channels I follow with my girlfriend. We're always just like so locked in. Like, do you like this about this person or that? And it's just more fun. You become fans of people, right? But I think It's like you have to be careful about how you post. And obviously, I post comments, and especially like hurtful comments. But yeah, man. I mean, did you ever also have just on a side note? I wanted to transition. Did you ever have a patient ever ask you about your social media? Because I feel like that might happen to you. Like, right. Hey, you're Deven Patel. You're like that funny Indian guy, we all know. Like, did you ever hear that from a patient before?
Just with a patient, just one time. There was once it was in clinic, and then the patient is like, oh, before we even got into it, and it was it was like a general medicine clinic, and they were just like, oh, I follow you on Instagram, by the way, and I said, oh, thank you for the support, and then we just kind of jumped into it. Didn't mention it again, and it went fine. Yeah. So in terms of patients, just that one time. In terms of like at the hospital, I'll run into people that have seen stuff, but that's because I make a lot of medical content. So yeah.
Yeah. And are you I guess like the content you're making now, is there any like I guess goals for your medical content? Like, is there anything new you have in mind right now that you might you're thinking about?
No, that's a really good question. I definitely want to get deeper into medical content. I think a lot of what I've done so far has been like med student skits, like just humor about the process of being a med student or being a resident. It'd be great to get into more like educational, informational stuff. Something that I would really, really like to do is just maybe even more mental health content, not just like skits, but just like more instructional or educational content that people could watch and use to implement in their own life to, improve their own state of mind. That's something I'd like to get into, maybe even general medicine, educational stuff. I know I'm a psychiatry specialist now, or moving towards that. I think there's a lot of space for medical education and educational content in the world, in America and the world. So getting more into that would be something that's great. I know I come from a place of mostly skits. When I post something that's not like a entertainment or a skit, I think sometimes the numbers will reflect people are not used to seeing that as much. So, figuring out a way to do more of that, I think, without sacrificing people not wanting to watch, right? Exactly. So how do I take the thing that I want to share, but do it in a way that like people want to digest, right? So it's not just hitting like a blank wall. So that's something to figure out. But yeah.
Is there any transitions I'm just thinking out loud here. But like, is there any transitions you could do that kind of like, hey, like if for those interested in this topic or this subject, follow or, go to this video or something, like people do that. I'm not the best with transitions, but I know some people are amazing with like that kind of stuff and they'll just get so much engagement on that post. I don't know how they do it, but some people are naturally really good with like that kind of, engagement to like transition over and, yeah, that's why I was going to ask you, like, is there any other way you thought of like doing that or?
No, that's a really good idea. Transitioning an audience, especially like if you made a second page for like a different type of content, that's a very good idea. I think just the one fear with that is like if you've already started establishing it, your hope, not necessarily correct, would be that, people will just kind of congregate eventually to whatever else you're doing if you just put it out to the same place. But transitioning is a really good idea. That way you can get a more direct audience that likes the thing that you're putting on that page, especially if it's different from what you normally put out. So very good idea. Very good idea. Something to think about.
I was just going to say, because I see like the wealth mindset and it's always like, I don't even know who manages that page, but it's always like that page about like physical or mental health. And it's like swipe right, go to wealth mindset, but it's like random posts, but it's just so engaging. Like the mindset or the growth. It's one of those like those random, like, Instagram, like medias, but everyone their mother's engaging with it because they're like tap tap tap, like, this is like really. Yeah. So I'm always trying to be like, man, how do I start that? That looks, but it seems like a lot of work too. I'm probably on the back end.
Right. Oh yeah, I'm sure. All of those, running anything is a lot of work, right?
Yeah. So I guess another thing I wanted to touch on is I guess like how do you kind of you travel with the content you do? Because I saw you were in a conference and stuff, and I think it was like a work thing. And you made it into like a fun post. And I thought that was really ingenious actually, because I think like a lot of people just thought it was like hilarious. Like I responded to you I'm pretty sure on your story as well.
Right. Yes. So, yeah, I can speak. So that was at the APA. That's the American Psychiatric Association, like the conference. They have that once a year. So I presented for that. That was fortunately in LA this year. And I work in like Orange County, so not too far. So that was great. And I presented at that. And then normally though with traveling, like in residency, you don't have like a ton of free time, but I will usually hopefully be able to go on like one trip a year with friends. I went to Morocco this past like April with some friends. So that worked out with my schedule. That was great. It worked out with my friend's schedule. But yeah, so traveling is definitely, as I get more free time, I mean, that might not be in the next like couple of years, but as I get more free time, that's something I definitely want to do more of. I feel like there's a lot of the world that I haven't explored yet. And I think as someone who likes storytelling and all of that, I think traveling and just seeing new perspectives firsthand is a very important way to grow. And yeah. Are you a big traveler?
Yeah, I'm a huge traveler. Like I love to travel. It's just I don't get the time because of like the flights sometimes like they just don't line up with my career.
Okay,
with my thing, and then also layovers just suck. So like recently I went with the family to Banff, Alberta, and it was so gorgeous. We went from Vancouver to Banff to Calgary, and I think like that thing, the lighting, the lakes, everything is just so perfect and it's just so unreal. And it opened my eyes like, man, I got to do this more with my friends too. Because as we get older, we kind of all get sucked in this life of like 9 to 5 and work and make money. But at the end of the day, like when we're like 70 years old, like, yeah, we're going to have money, but we're going to be like 70 years old. So like we need to like make moves now. So it just like really opened my mind to like just kind of like taking that step of like, like I'm still young and like I need to stop thinking always like future. And I think like, that kind of stuff I want to implement in my mental health audience. Right. And if you make a film about it, definitely, feel free to pick my brain because I definitely would love to give you like my tidbits because I make notes on all of my guests, like what they offer to like my audience. So I'd love to like, give like, just pointers or whatever I can offer in this space. Especially, are you trying to influence, I guess, with your films, if you do have a film, specific communities or just have a overall generic or like a wider audience?
Yeah, more broad. So yeah, I would love to not, I would love for any community, any culture to be able to access it and understand it. And appreciate it. I think one of the things with, if you talk about mental illness or mental health or stigmas or anything, every culture, like historically, is a different way of like characterizing folks who have mental illness, right? There's like it's all kind of similar, but there's a slightly different stigma that each respective culture would put on someone who's mentally ill. But I think that the universal fact that people put stigma on things and that they judge things that are foreign to them and that they oftentimes with like mental illness will characterize a mentally ill person's actions as bad behavior as opposed to like, different brain chemistry. I think all of that is universal enough that even if let's say I told this story in a really specific way about one cultural group, I feel like it would still be accessible by a broad audience. And that's the hope.
And I guess like I would have said like with the film, would you have like specific actors or would you be the main actor? How would you have that film go?
I would. So you write the script, and then if it's a strong enough script, then it should naturally lend itself towards, producers wanting to help you make it. And then also, actors, actresses, whatnot, wanting to be a part of it. So that would be the goal. I would want to cast, who I felt was right for it. I wouldn't necessarily want to be in it. I would want to find the most strongest actors I could who resonated with the material and then, kind of proceed that way. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. And I'm sure there's like interview process too, right? Like for that kind of stuff too. And I think whoever, like maybe they have like a mental health background or something, they can really offer some really good points. Cause one of my best friends, she's an actor and she told me to cry on command on a video is so freaking hard. And you have to put yourself in the actor's shoes. Like Joaquin Phoenix, like when he did the Joker, apparently like he went through a lot of mental health issues post and pre movie because he was so involved in his character or whoever the character he was playing. When it comes to acting, and he lost like, I think like 70 or 80 pounds. He was already a skinny guy, but he wanted to play the perfect Joker for that movie. And I don't know if you remember that movie. It's like the first Joker.
Yeah.
So it was crazy. He looked kind of like freaky looking, like his bone structure and everything. I was also going to ask you, what makes a great psychiatrist? I think that is something I've always wanted to know because psychiatry gets a lot of good rep and it also has a potential to have a bad rep if you misdiagnose and stuff, right? And that's like anything else. I can also give advice on mental health, but if I give bad advice, it's not good. So I guess what makes a great psychiatrist, and I think you're a great psychiatrist, but just in general, right? Like what makes a great psychiatrist and someone that's really there for their career rather than just like someone that may not be the greatest, I guess.
I hear you. Yeah. When it comes to, being good at any medical specialty, I think it takes, I know we can talk about psychiatry specifically. I think it takes someone that is able to hear anyone's perspective, hear anyone's background, anyone's beliefs, anyone's prior actions and whatnot, and just be able to listen to them without immediately assigning like bias or judgment to it. I think the natural human thing when you hear, because when you talk to people in mental health, they're telling you their most vulnerable stuff that they wouldn't, maybe even tell like loved ones. And so they're telling you all this and, you meet people oftentimes in like the worst days of their lives. They're really going through it. They chose to come to a hospital or they were brought in because they were going through a mental health crisis. So, when you're confronted with all of that, sometimes the human tendency is to just assign your own bias or judgment to, people's stories. But then if you're able to remove yourself from that and just wholly listen to something and just really actively listen and actively think and really be present for it. Because a lot of the times when we listen to people, sometimes waiting to speak or sometimes thinking about other things we need to do. If you can really be present in someone's story and just listen to it and accept it fully, that's like the first step, I think. I'm sure people have gone to visit their own psychiatrist or therapist and sometimes feel like they don't quite listen or they didn't quite catch everything. And I'm sure that happens sometimes, but finding the right doctor who will listen to you fully and doesn't make you feel like, they're judged or they're using their own methods or their own beliefs or whatever to like help you and can just really see you fully and honestly and openly. That's like the first step, I think, towards being a good psychiatrist and also finding the right one for you. And then after that, I think the thing that matters the most is finding someone that can listen to all of that and then can give you advice, even if it doesn't meet even if it's not the same advice you'd give yourself, right? If you're able to see a patient as a patient and not just put your own life story or your own beliefs or your own things into it, right? If you can just treat someone like completely like in the lens of medicine, right? What is the best medicine that I can offer this person? I don't mean like a tablet or a pill. I just mean like, what is the best, like, how can you treat this person like in a objective way that's like evidence-based medicine where you're not just, because I think there's a tendency when you talk to someone in your own life, when someone comes up to you and needs advice and they tell you about their stuff, you're using your own judgment, your own experience, your own feelings, what you think is right to educate them. But when you see a patient in mental health and anywhere in the hospital, any specialty, you're not really doing that, right? You're using, a set of like guidelines of evidence-based medicine, of clinical trials, of all of the stuff that's been done of science to help this person, help them move out of whatever mental health crisis they're in, help them process their emotions in a healthier way, help them get onto medication if that's necessary, help them get plugged into the right outpatient program or resources or whatever it is they need. And basically just using your words, using your actions, give them what they need to help them get the strength to move through this whatever crisis they're in, and also buy into the fact that they may need more help, right? Even if they're not someone who really believes in mental health or counseling or anything, that they need to buy into the idea that it would help them to go forward with this and work with you on this. And being able to do that, I think, is what, and this is a very long-winded answer, but again, I'm in my second year of training now, so I'm still developing what it means to be that. But that's essentially what I would say. So those are some of the most important things, I think, towards being a good psychiatrist, towards finding the right psychiatrist for you. And I think it takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of practice, so you don't, and another thing I'll add, AI is getting more popular. One of the benefits of AI, like if this was to replace psychiatrists or therapists, it's AI is like a computer, right? So it's like you're telling your most deepest, darkest things to a computer. And sometimes it can you feel less judgment with like a computer listening to you or software listening to you than a human listening to you. So in order to be like a really good psychiatrist, you need to be able to make people feel like you're just listening, you're there with them on this journey. You're not, judging them. You're not coming from a place of human discernment and judgment. You're coming from a place of medicine and of just objectively trying to help them get better. And being able to become that and do that is a very challenging thing. I think it takes a very long time to become that. But if you can, then I think you do become a good psychiatrist. Your patients will be able to see that and feel that and appreciate that and feel comfortable and safe with you. And you'll be doing justice to like the field of medicine. So that's kind of my long rambling answer on that topic.
No, it's a great rambling. This is a rambling podcast in a weird way.
Right.
So you
right,
can
right.
just keep talking.
Of course.
I'll just get up and leave and come back and I'll be like, damn, like let's keep it rolling,
Love it. Yeah.
But I think it's a really, really healthy and amazing perspective you think about these things, because I did see a reel the other day and it was like AI and it's like, oh, med students using AI. And I'm like, it's such a discredit to the medical industry because it's a joke. It's not like they're using it for like a real patient. Like, like they're using it as a supplement, but it's not like they're using it as their career, right? Like these kids, like to get through med school, you have to be an extremely smart human being. Mm-hmm. Then to get through it, you have to have like the discipline, the endurance, the stamina, the long hours. You have to do all of that. And there's no way someone will make it through all that with just AIing everything, right? But again, it's also great to see it from that perspective, because from a patient story, it's mortifying, right? I think anything with psychiatry, or just not forget psychiatry, but just taking pills, the ability to take pills and to be on something, not everyone is accepting of that because they want to feel normal, and they are normal. But and it's also a normal thing to do is take pills, right? Like blood pressure medication, cholesterol medication. But now you're going to neurology a little bit, like anything that, SSRIs and things like that really help somebody. And for some people, they can't fathom like being on something and they read so much about it, brain zaps and all this stuff. And, it could be like a make or break point through for them, right?
Definitely.
Of living a better quality of life. So I think like what you said is so important, that it's important to differentiate AI and really try to understand the patient's story. And again, bias is always going to be there, right? I think I'm biased in certain ways. Like if you ask me who has the best podcast, I'll be like, it's me, or
You're right,
who has the best, who's the best MD, I'm like Deven Patel, So like, it's just bias. But at the end of the day, you have to accept everybody. So yeah, man, that's just my take on it, for what you said, piggybacking off of what you said to our audience.
Definitely. No, I love it. I agree.
Awesome. I guess, okay, so one thing I wanted to be is, so residency notoriously stressful, right? What physical routines or rituals did you have to kind of get going through residency or even med school? I've seen some medical students wake up and they have like some real interesting rituals. Like they wake up and have cha. They do like this like thing to like calm down in the morning, or some people go for runs. What is your physical routine to kind of stay sharp and almost like, optimize like your work-life balance, I guess?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I started doing more so in med school was prioritizing like getting enough sleep. Not that I succeeded at it at all, but prior to med school, I would sleep 4 to like 6 hours probably. It's not good at all. And I would just
Yeah,
be
that's
I'd be kind of
below
baseline
normal
tired.
people.
What's
Yeah,
that?
I was like, it's below normal people because I think most people
Yeah.
need like 8 hours.
And me too, and me too. But I think I was just like, if I sleep less, I'll get more done. And that was my mentality for a lot of my life. And then I think around the time of med school, I feel like hopefully I started sleeping more, like 6 hours plus. And then I think also if you're pursuing multiple things and sometimes you procrastinate, it's hard to get enough sleep. I've definitely struggled with that more of my life than I haven't. And but around the time I started med school, I was like, all right, let's prioritize sleep. I would try to get a little bit more sleep. There's definitely days where I barely slept and went to work and stuff, or like went to class. And then by the time I started doing rotations and having to like see patients, then I was like, okay, now you really need to prioritize sleep because you're doing work, you're servicing someone else. You need to be well rested enough to be able to do this. And of course, sometimes you're on 24-hour shifts, sometimes you're on night shifts and those kinds of things, and you'll be a little bit tired. But I think part of the practice of being a resident and being a doctor is learning how can you learn to operate even when you're a little bit tired and still be able to just fully focus, fully use your best judgment and those sorts of things. And the human body has its limits. So I think nowadays my thing is like really trying to get enough sleep. Like 8 hours is like the dream in life. I don't always get it, but that's like amazing if you do. Like I'm gonna have a great day if I got 8 hours of sleep. And then but before med school and all that, I wouldn't sleep that much. I can definitely feel the difference now. I'm not like a coffee drinker or anything like that. Regarding like working out gym, I try to go like 2-3 times a week. And I'm really feeling great on 2 to 3 times a week if I'm able to hit that. There's definitely periods where you're like too busy, I guess, so to speak, if any of us can really say that we're too busy, but like where you just don't really have the time to go. And if you go, it'll cut into your sleep too much and you have to choose one or the other. And sometimes you're in those periods and that's fine. But it's just, I guess my thing is nowadays, my way to stay well is just, try to get the sleep as you can, try to hit 8 hours or get close to it. And then with the gym, just, whenever you're free, go, right? If you can go 2-3 times a week, that's amazing. And then, you just feel better when you're going. When you're well rested and you're exercising and you're eating well and all of that, you feel great. And when it comes to like food, I'm a vegetarian, so I just try to make sure I get enough protein, try to make sure I get my vegetables. I definitely don't think in terms of flavor or taste. I just think in terms of like, eat enough so you don't feel hypoglycemic and make sure you get enough protein because, if you're working out, you want to just make sure your muscle recovery is good. And that's kind of where I am. I think I live a pretty basic life. I don't eat like fancy foods or tasty foods or anything like that. Just like really simple stuff. Don't drink coffee, just, more water drinker and then just try to get enough sleep. Those are my main like health things. As you get older, I think you realize the importance of having a regimen that you stick to because you can feel the difference if you don't. And yeah, that's kind
How
of
are
where I
you?
am with it now. Yeah.
I guess like right now, or how are you? Are you still getting like eight hours still, or it's kind of cut down, or it's up and down
It's
now because
I
of
just
your
Right. So I just came off of night shift. So I was sleeping during the day up till like a 2 or 3 days ago, and then now I'm switching my schedule back. So I'm trying to get back to like sleeping like 8 hours, whatnot. I'm probably averaging around 6.5, 7, but I'm trying to push up towards that 8. I'm back on daytime shifts. So yeah. So all good things.
yeah, sleep is tough. I feel like
It is.
like sometimes like even when the room's really hot and you're like overheating, I hate it when that happens. I'm personally someone who has sleep apnea, like a very mild case.
Oh yeah.
So like yeah, so it sucks because like I try to CPAP before. It's not possible to wear it. So yeah, man. I mean, sleep is like such a important thing, and I'm glad you're prioritizing that over a lot of things because yeah, you can work out all day, you can eat well, but sleep is a third element that I feel people don't get enough of just because of like
100%.
staying up with friends or going out. We also all want to live our own experiences. Sleep is an important one. I guess with your physical routine, your 2-3 time workout, you optimize your workout. Like, do you do like HIIT or something? Because I know a couple doctors that just don't have the time as they used to, so they just go really hard for like 30-40 minutes straight in a week, and that's it. They're good to go, and that's enough for
Good.
them, right?
Yeah.
Do you prioritize like what do you enjoy? I guess when it comes to physical activity, pickleball,
Oh yeah. Love pickleball, love hiking, love all of that. I haven't done much of that recently. Most of my
Oh
physical
yeah, that's
activities
a
just
big one.
been right. A lot of my say that one more time.
Oh, my bad. I was saying like the SF, like California, you guys are
Yeah.
huge hikers.
Right.
Because when I
Yes.
went there,
Yes. Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah. Everyone's a big hiker out here. So, yeah. So that's fun, but I've not done a lot of that recently. Actually, most of my cardio has just been like walking to work, walking back, walking around the hospital, that sort of thing. And then my like strength training has been just like, if I can find a bench and dumbbells, that's all I need. I can do upper body, lower body just with that. And that's pretty much been my routine. I don't really use machines or anything like that. Yeah, I just kind of use what's available. There's a gym at the apartment where I live near the hospital, and so I work out there, and then I walk to work, and that's kind of been my fitness regimen. And I don't eat a lot of sweets or junk or anything like that. Sometimes it's more of a struggle just to eat enough with the scheduling, with being a vegetarian, which sometimes can be difficult. But yeah, so that's kind of where I've been with it.
And you've been on this clean diet for a long time, so you're kind of used to it, I guess. Because that's kind of hard. I mean, I feel like I have Taco Bell like whenever I have a chance. And it's
Taco Bell can be like
or
healthy
Del
though.
Taco, whatever you guys have.
Either of those, I think I don't eat them that often, but there's been periods of time in my life where I really heavily depended on Taco Bell or Del Taco specifically because if you're a vegetarian and you want to eat in America, really those two places you can go and substitute something with beans, so you're still getting like some sort of sustenance, right? Some sort of carbs, protein, that sort of thing. Most places where you go and you don't eat meat, they're just like, okay, here's the thing without the meat. It's not usually enough. It's not like enough sustenance to like feel like you ate something. Yeah. So respect to Del Taco, Taco Bell. I think they feed a lot of people. I think there can be a lot of salt. You're right. There can be a lot of salt in the food and stuff, but I think overall, like if you order correctly at those spots, you can get something that's decently healthy. I wouldn't necessarily eat it every day, but yeah. But when it comes to like healthy eating and stuff like that, I try to just, grocery shop, like make simple stuff, pack food, bring it. The hospital cafeteria is usually a pretty healthy food if you order the right stuff. And yeah, just actively trying to choose and keep in mind that, all right, today I want to try to get a couple vegetable sources in. I want to try to avoid eating too much sugar. I want to, make sure with each of my meals or whatever, I get enough protein. And I think keeping that active mindset in mind, you can hit the nutritional requirements you need, but then also hopefully enjoy the food you're eating. So you don't want to just feel like you're eating just for the sake of hitting nutrient numbers. I mean, that works for some people. I think it works for me, but I think food is a source of enjoyment for a lot of people. I think it used to be for me, and not so much anymore. But yeah, so that's kind of been my relationship with it.
Yeah, having a good relationship with food I think is very important. Considering like as we all go on dates and stuff, I feel like the date's not going so well. You gotta just have a good food.
Right. Yeah. If you're
So
gonna go on a date, you
yeah,
wanna. Yeah. Right. Something to look forward to. Yes.
the food has to be good.
Right.
But I think like with food, like having, I think like a balance is the key. And I think, did you ever have I guess like in a time where, when you were at home, did you enjoy like home food more than like being independent? Cause cooking is also another thing with Indian people, right?
Yeah, cooking definitely takes a lot of time. I know how to cook, but when I'm at work and stuff, I just try to make like simple meals. I'm not cooking anything fancy. I'm not like the most I'll do is like, boil pasta or assemble simple stuff. Home food is absolutely my favorite. Like, growing up, like, mom's cooking like in high school and stuff. That was great. I think once I moved out of the house after high school for like college and onwards, that's when my journey with cooking, making
Yeah.
food and all of that kind of started. So it's been good. I think cooking sometimes can take time, right? Procuring the ingredients, making stuff, all of that. When you're strapped on time, I feel like you're not able to cook yourself as fancy or great meals. So that's, once I have more time in life and maybe if I'm pursuing a little bit less things, I'd love to get back into cooking more and kind of rediscovering my enjoyment of food. That was something that I absolutely was big into maybe several years ago, but as I started pursuing multiple things, I think enjoyment of food and like that sort of thing kind of went out the window. That was like the first thing to go. So
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely miss the home meals. Growing up, that's the best thing. Whenever your friends' parents or you go back home or anything and or family, like they prepare food, that's always like the very best thing. Like nothing better than home food. It's just different, When you eat at a restaurant,
Yeah.
it's just a little different.
I totally agree. Like when I went to college and I came back, it was the best feeling having dal and rice. So,
Amazing. Yeah,
you can't get rid of that feeling. And I feel
absolutely.
you. Like I think having a time to cook and learn and everything, I think it's a great skill to have because then you can make some really bomb ass food for you and your friends, right? You're gonna be like that
100%.
one friend that everyone's like, oh my god, he's coming over. He's gonna make some good food. I guess like two,
Definitely.
three things I want to touch on is like I know we've seen your dad on the Instagram. Are you gonna create more content with him or is he gonna create his own channel? Because I feel like he might have
Right.
potential,
Yeah.
man. I was gonna ask you
Definitely.
about that.
No, that
and people like him. Like,
Yeah,
people like,
they love him. Definitely, definitely. Yeah, he's definitely like the favorite of everybody. He's so me and him started making videos because I was collaborating with like other friends in the acting spaces, and then it was during like step exam time, like board exam time, where I wasn't really going out, I wasn't like interacting with people, I was just at home studying, and I needed to make some more videos because I was like, all right, well, I want to keep the channel growing. So then I asked my dad to like be in one, and we made like a when your dad's a doctor video, and then we made like a couple other ones, and those did really well. People really enjoyed them, and we saw that uh, multiple demographics were interested in that. It wasn't just, people of the same cultural background. It wasn't just people of the same age group. It was like more family type content. So, and we also, that was like became like a thing for me and my dad to do together. So it became kind of like a fun activity, right? Thinking of like ideas, thinking of things, making the videos, that sort of thing. And yeah, so that's kind of how that started. And we still do it. So like every couple weeks, months, probably months, I'll like come up with some more ideas. I'll write out some scripts, and then I'll come home, I'll tell my dad them, and then we'll record them. And so we'll record those, and then we'll make like another like several, and then I'll just have them in like my backlog on my phone. Like we recently went to Yosemite, and while we were there, we made like a good handful of videos, and then I have those in my backlog, so I'll post those. And yeah, I think the things that you do with your family, with my dad in this specific case, I think people can really appreciate that because it just gives it more of like a home feel. We all had our respective relationships with our loved ones that we treasure. And I think seeing someone else express theirs can make you feel it more at home with your own, through your memories, through your thoughts, that sort of thing. So yeah. And I come to these skits and stuff more with like a writer, director type mind. I'm more about the idea, right? I'm more about the script and whatever. And so to get to work with people like my dad or other collaborators is amazing. And I'm always so grateful. And, I feel like they're the ones who give it like life and stuff, right? And, eventually if I get to filmmaking, I can, really appreciate the value of having someone that the audience really likes to watch, such as my dad, such as any of these collaborators. And I'm just grateful to get to write things for them and make things for them. And yeah.
No, and that's beautiful. Yeah. And the thing is, like, you guys almost do it as an activity or it's something, and I'm sure your dad's like, oh, I want to see what the audience said about me and this and that.
What's funny? What's funny is he so once we've like recorded it, right? So basically the way these work, I'll write the script, and then I'll just kind of tell him the lines. And English isn't his first language, but he's of course proficient. So I'll tell him whatever the line is. He'll practice it a couple times, and then he'll say it. And he says it so naturally that I think a lot of the times people will watch it and they'll believe like whatever personality he has in the video, they'll believe he's savage, or they'll believe he's this or that or whatever. But that's just like his acting, and he's doing a really good job. And yeah, and sorry, I forgot where I was going to go with that. Anyways,
he's a good actor.
He's a good actor. He does a great job with it, and he makes whatever lines are written feel like they're his own, which is like the most you can ask for. And yeah, and there was something I was going to say, but it slipped my mind. I'm not sleeping enough, but yeah.
No, it's okay. If it comes back to you, feel free to let me know.
I will.
And I think it's sick that you do that with your dad, and you guys are so compatible when it comes to reels, because he's like fully in. I feel like that shows like in the reels and stuff, and it's almost a way for you guys to catch up when you go home and almost look back on memories.
I remembered. So what it was is that because you're asking about, is he interested in like what people say? The funny thing is, once we've recorded like the clips, then I'll edit it and I'll post it. Most of the time, I don't think he even like, I think he'll eventually see it somehow, but he doesn't ask to like see the final version. I'll just finish it. I'll post it. And he knows what it's going to be because, we read the whole script together. And then, even if there's like a viral video and there's like so many comments, like, praising him or complimenting him, whatever, I don't think he even sees most of it, right? Yeah, so he's pretty detached from it. But sometimes people, when he's out in public, people will come up to him, they'll be like, oh, I like the videos, can I get a selfie with you, that sort of thing. And then I think he appreciates that, and he feels the inclusion of what that would entail, which is great. But yeah, that's kind of his take on. Yeah,
and it's like it's cool to know that he feels included, especially like with people, and I'm sure they also, when they see him, they're probably like, oh man, like this is like so relatable, right? And I think you guys are posting such relatable things that we all kind of do behind back doors with our parents, right? So I think that is very cool. Is there any cringe content you enjoy, Loki? Just something more we want to know about Deven.
Like making or watching?
Watching. Or you could be making too. I mean, you never know.
I would just watch whatever comes up on the Explore page. There's a lot of different various accounts that like I would enjoy. But, more so I've been trying to like watch less and like create more. Because I think what's kind of become a crutch for me and for maybe a lot of people, it's not bad to consume. Obviously, we all create and we consume. But I think what's sometimes I'll find myself like watching like when it's time to like create or do something of my own, it's easier just to like watch or look at something someone else has done, just because it's less brain power and it's more comforting. So I've been trying to actively consume less, make more, or even if you don't make more, just take more time for myself, because I feel like a lot of our brain, the way we think now is so shaped by like whatever phrase is popular in social media or whatever trend is going on. And we're all starting to speak and think and act alike. And I feel like that causes us to lose our individuality a little bit. And I think that's just because of the just content everywhere, you know? Right. So I know that's kind of going off on a tangent, but yeah,
No,
I
no,
absolutely,
actually,
yeah,
yeah, no, I was just gonna like kind of interject a little. Like that is so true because I've seen that in like when I go outings and stuff, like people and I've seen that like people talk very similarly with the way they digest content. They believe some of this content is real, and it's
yeah,
kind of like it's kind of dangerous in my opinion because I'm
definitely,
like
definitely.
you're kind of losing your individuality with what you think is real versus what is not, right? Like a lot of these people, they just do it as a joke or they do it for entertainment. It's more so about just like kind of being more engaging, right? Like to promote their channels or their Instagram, whatever it is.
Yeah,
But I think like it's not like how they live their life. Like you are a 9 to 5 hardworking, lad that literally goes to work, like is
right.
a full-time doctor and is doing this as like a hobby or a
Yeah,
way to
yeah.
kind of influence people. Like have you also had these conversations with other creators? Because I've seen you have, content with other creators. Like, are they feeling the same way? Like they feel like maybe they are also portrayed a certain way, or people, because people believe what they see on the internet, right? It's
Absolutely.
almost like, how do you believe this?
Right.
But
Even
they
if
do.
it's that, you touched on such a great point. Even if it's like a skit or something that's like pre-rehearsed or whatever, I think when people see content, it doesn't feel the same as when they're watching like a show. When they watch a TV show or a movie or something, then you would think that the people in it's acting, right? It's a script. But I think when people see content, and not that some content is real content, people just documenting their lives, but a lot of content is just that someone's like, oh, this is a funny idea. And then they make it, right? They're performing, they're putting on like a show. But I think a lot of the times when people watch content, it's hard to distinguish what's real and what's not. So people actually think that this is real, right? People think that this is their relationship. Like if one person's being mean to the other, they think, oh, this is real. If I make a video with like a girl or something, they'll think, okay, those two are probably dating in real life. If I make a video with my dad and he's like really like savage towards me, they're gonna think that's what their relationship is like in real life. And I think it makes sense when you see something, you question if it's real or not. But I think more so with content, and you mentioned other creators, I feel like I've had this conversation with them too. Anything you put online, especially if it goes viral, people will believe that that's real. So if I made a video about like, being lazy or, promoting eating, junk food or whatever, then like even as a joke, people would believe that to be real, likely if it did well. And so I think that also like gives some responsibility to people who put things online. Like don't try to spread like negative viewpoints or things like that, because very likely, more than not, you can get people to actually believe that stuff, and then you can unintentionally perpetuate negative ideals, beliefs, stereotypes, whatever. So yeah, I think the line between what's real and what's not, you really hit that on the head, is pretty blurred with content. So people will just naturally assume things, I think more so than not, are real, and they'll comment in that way. And it's good for engagement that people are commenting all this stuff and debating. But, at the end of the day, it's all like, mostly I'm assuming it's all fake. My stuff's all just skits. It's all just pre-written entertainment. Like none of it's like real, so to speak. Like it's based on like real ideas and stuff, but it's just two people reading a script and performing.
Honestly, that kind of relates to, because if you see all these videos online, maybe like financial videos, right? A lot of real practical stuff versus, and then a lot of fake stuff too online. How to get rich with Bitcoin.
Yeah,
Like
right.
some people were lucky to hold it. Some people were lucky to do it later. But again, like people believe what they believe because they want to get a sense of quick relief, quick ROI. And I think it's almost like you have a responsibility to kind of like, have like a real authentic thing to yourself. So I think it's really important to just be yourself and also not double down on things that you think are too good to be true. And especially like, that's why I always try to put a face to a name or a face to someone I know very well. Like in person, I try to, meet people in person, not meet them, through Instagram reels. Even virtually is fine. But I think if you judge someone based on a reel, it's clearly like, you're playing a dangerous game because that's just not how they are. And honestly, like very valid for people that came on my podcast, because when I was first starting out, I used to always think like, oh, this person's a certain way, because you just look at their reels and you get engulfed in their content. But then like when you see them online, they're very like stoic, or they're very like funny, or they're very like sincere, and it's cool. But like, see, like now I'm seeing it, so I'm like, okay, I can't, like, you know, at this level, hitting like the, you know, 80th, 90th podcast, I don't see people like, it's like I have to break my bias of what I see online versus, you know, in person. It's a full circle thing, you know, like how you said, even with patients, you have to be neutral as possible.
Of course,
You know?
of course, of course. Right. You can't, and like you said, you can't go in with your own preconceived ideas of what someone is, right? Then you don't allow them to surprise you, and, you know, you don't really see them in an accurate way.
Yeah. So I have a couple rapid fire rounds if you want to answer them, because I know we're kind of running a little long on time. I just want to make sure you get your sleep in.
Right. Thank you.
So, what's the first thing you do when you're feeling mentally, I guess, off? I guess, yeah.
Put whatever screen I'm looking at, because I'm sure I'm on some screen, down, and just hopefully go outside, or at least like take a couple steps away from the laptop, from the phone, whatever.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I guess the second one is therapy or journaling. Which one is your go-to?
You said therapy or journaling? Journaling for me.
Journaling. So you like writing a lot of thoughts that you're feeling, or
Yes.
feeling down?
Writing. Yes. Expressing it back is the best way for me to process something.
That's a good way to think about it.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think like we all got to do a little bit more of that, including me.
Definitely.
Most underrated emotion.
Underrated emotion.
I feel like that's low-key a hard one.
This is a tough one.
But it's like, you have to think about it, I think, right?
I'm thinking about it. Let's see.
Even I'm thinking about it. Even I don't even know. Maybe anxiety? No. It's like most of
Ambivalence. I don't know if that's an emotion, but ambivalence is the ability to just be kind of not jumping to an extreme about like something, right? I think and that comes to mind because of like mental health. We always being able to be ambivalent is an important thing. A lot of the times, if you're not, and you're just jumping to one extreme or the other, that tends towards making your life harder. Ambivalence is what I would choose.
That's a great answer, actually. And that's something like you're like, it's like a balanced answer, right? Like you're almost in the middle. You're not like jumping to one thing. You're literally like in the middle.
And it's not really an emotion, but I think for the purposes of this question, we can say it is.
It is, yeah. Whatever it is, we have to answer this. I guess most healing activity, I guess for people who may have something like chronic, like anxiety, depression, most healing activity you recommend, obviously it could be like their own like things that they enjoy, but maybe just something that you might want to throw out that you've seen time and time again.
It's the most basic thing, but just disconnecting, leaving your phone somewhere and going outside for just like a walk, just being present in nature and not carrying with you the things that are stressing you out, aka your phone, because that's a representation of whatever's going on in your life. Being able to just put that away for a little bit, I think is an important thing as humans.
Solid. And the last one is, would you have like a deep conversation with a friend about mental health, or would you have a fun conversation about mental health, but it's reals? Like it could be like a deep, it's a mental health conversation, but it's either deep or short form or long form.
Always
Which
deep.
one would you have?
Always deep, always like honest, deep, straight, painful, not usually fun. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. That's good. No, and I think we're good here. I think it was such a great to have you on, and I'd love to know like if you come on again, like
definitely
what developments you have made. And again, brother, thank you so much for doing this. And I'll definitely, I encourage my audience to go follow Deven. Deven, put in your Instagram so they know who you are. And also, if you want to, I guess if they want to reach out to you for medical advice or medical content, they can reach out to you for that, or they have questions, because I know you're always trying to learn a thing or two from people as well. Yeah, feel free to plug your stuff in, and then we can end the pod.
Yeah. My handle on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok is Deven Patel. That's DEVNTELL.
Beautiful. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Deven. Appreciate you. Thanks.
Thank you, Mike. Great seeing you.
You too, buddy. Bye.
Bye.
Don't slide. Pull up with me for a hell of a ride. You need a couple wins, they ain't doing it right.